Minot Chamber, Mark Lyman raised their hand and said, when we were looking at areas to study for a regional pilot grocery warehouse and local foods hub, said, you know, pick us. We would like to have you take a look at doing this type of work in our area. And so you can see within the area that the Souris Basin Planning Council, or Region 2 in our state, as we go by economic development planning councils, that many of the counties in that area are unfortunately among those that lost population. And one of the other trends that I think is worth noting is, as we talk about the number of grocery stores across the state, when my predecessor, Lori Sapp, who began this rural grocery work and this specific study around 2014, there were 137 grocery stores in small towns in the state at that time, and there were just 90 in 2024. So we can just take a look at that next slide, but I just point this out because people won't move to the communities in these counties that were in orange out of sympathy. We need to make sure that they have the essential services that they need for those to be quality places to live. So we wanted to share this map with you. This comes from an article that was in the Washington Post this fall that was titled "Grocery Chains Are Bigger Than Ever." And what it shows is the extreme market dominance that has occurred over the last decade or so, and in our area specifically by Walmart and Sam's Club, although we're seeing Costco, you know, making some moves into our market area as well. And so there was a recent article in the Atlantic that is worth a read if you have a chance, and it's called "The Great Grocery Squeeze," and it talks about changes in federal policy. Yeah. And this was one that certainly I had not been aware of previous in my rural and economic development work, is that there's a Robinson-Chapman Act, and the Federal Trade Commission up through the 80s was enforcing this as, you know, essentially like antitrust type law, and requiring that grocery suppliers could not charge different prices for the same basic products. And so if you were selling a truckload to this store, you needed to charge the same price as if you're selling that same truckload to this store. And essentially they stopped enforcing that law in the 1980s. And so this article would suggest that it's no coincidence that we've seen this extreme market dominance then in the years since. So we could go to the next slide. And so Lori's phone, I think, was, as I understand it, kind of starting to ring quite frequently around 2014 with calls from rural grocery stores seeking help with operating assistance. And so she started to say there's got to be a problem here that's more common to all. And one of those was just the cost that they were facing just to get the conventional groceries to the store, and the costs that were associated with just a simple drop or a breaking of a case, and those types of things. And so a lot of work went into putting together this rural access distribution co-op, and you'll hear Neil Doty talk about this in a bit. But it brought together 5 communities in Northeast North Dakota, Walsh County, to purchase their groceries cooperatively. So they formed a shared services cooperative, and they share in dropping at one location and then transportation, kind of a hub and spoke method to get those groceries to the other stores, and then involving local foods as well. So for example, locally grown potatoes, and so there's some backhauling in there and such. And so this has been a very successful project. But what Lori and the team realized is that to continue to try to do this work on a county by county basis was going to be too slow to address that trend when we talked about there being 137 stores in 2014 and only 90 now in 2024 to take a look at it on a more regional approach. And so that's what this project has been about, that the team's been involved in for the last year or so. If you could just take a look at that next slide. So just a few takeaways in a recent impact study on that rural access distribution co-op. I would just draw attention to what the hub store and the spoke stores specifically had to say, and that was that for the hub store, which some of them might just have the attitude, well, it won't help us, but as long as it helps the other stores, we're willing to do it. But even for them, sales increased 13%. So in general, it was making products available in greater variety and affordability at the price point coming into the store. The spoke stores, one of them indicated an approximate 25% increase in gross sales and 16% increase in profitability. And another spoke store reported a 10% increase in profitability. So this is exciting, and part of, then why taking a look at if aggregating grocery purchasing within a 75 to 100-mile radius of Minot could be worthwhile. So let's just go on to that next slide. So there's been two simultaneous kind of studies or initiatives, if you will, going sometimes lockstep and maybe sometimes zigging and zagging over the last year or so. But one of them is under the USDA Cooperative Development Grant that our association receives to help fund the Rural Development Services work. And so that's been on the conventional grocery side. And so there've been a number of surveys and phone calls and interviews with grocery operators to see if they would have interest in exploring something like this. And then also what their current practices are with regard to selling local foods, locally produced foods in their stores, and if they have interest in selling more. And then parallel to that, funded through the USDA Local Foods Promotion Program, has been a project to more specifically focus on if local foods producers, vegetable growers, fruit, eggs, meats, dairy, etc., if they are interested in broadening their markets. So a lot are currently involved in direct-to-consumer sales through either farmers markets or CSAs and some fledgling producer cooperative efforts. But if they're looking at selling in higher volumes and participating in a wholesale market to get locally produced foods into more stores, school to farm to school programs, restaurants, institutions, and the like. And so there've been, we just want to thank everyone who has been participating in surveys, a multitude of surveys, some focus group discussions, and providing input on this project. Can take a look at that next slide. This is just one concept of what a combination conventional grocery or local foods hub could look like if you put it together. I kind of call this the big, hairy, audacious goal of putting rural grocery and local foods and food processing and perhaps a commercial kitchen and classroom all into one. And if you maybe could, bring in the Great Plains Food Bank or others, but it doesn't have to look like this. It can start small and it can grow incrementally, and it can bring the different pieces and parts along. And so one of the things that I should really clarify at this juncture is to just say that the North Dakota Association of Rural Electric Cooperatives is not interested in being the owner or operator of any proposed facility as we discuss this, but rather just being a catalyst, an advocate, a champion, for the initiative in this area, a convener, a facilitator, whatever terms you want to throw at it. So, we are looking for the true champions or anchors in this project, but again, willing to continue to assist in in whatever size and shape this might take place, if it means, you know, starting small and growing incrementally and bringing different pieces and parts together. So this is just kind of one look at what it could be. So let's go to that next slide. Again, just want to recognize some of our collaborators and partners in this process. We have appreciated the help of FARMS, the Foundation for Agricultural and Rural Resources, and Stephanie Blumenhagen is here with us, the Souris Basin Planning Council, Strengthen ND, and the Minot Area EDC in this process, and also have been in the early stages of conversations with the MHA Nation and the incredible native green growth project in the partial area, and to explore opportunities for involvement and collaboration there. And then we'll hear from Neil Doty with Crossroads Community Advisors in just a bit, and later John Kane with Warehouses for Good. So just thank you for everyone who is participating and exploring this. And let's go to that next slide. And so as we hear the report this afternoon and have ongoing discussions, or at least we hope you're interested in ongoing discussions on this topic, I would just say that we certainly do not have all of the answers yet, and would only ask if you would have the tolerance or the patience to be willing to tolerate some ambiguity as we go along. But if we can agree to the why and the what that we want to accomplish, then I think we can figure out the how and the when and the where as we go along. And so, you know, we're going to find all kinds of ways to poke holes in things and say what won't work. And we hope that we can come together and figure out what will work. So next slide, please. Just want to share with you the team that has helped put this work together from the North Dakota Association of Rural Electric Cooperatives. Chris Gessley to my right, Brian Ian over here. Mary Helbig wasn't able to be with us today. She's doing some State Board of Ag research work back at headquarters. And then if we can go to that next slide. Big shout out to Lori Sapu in the back of the room, and all of the work that she has been doing in rural grocery access. And I think we got the great news just this last Friday that next fall she will be inducted into the National Cooperative Hall of Fame. I have asked Lori to please feel free to jump in and clarify and contribute as we go through the reporting session this afternoon, and we're just so appreciative of all of the knowledge that she has gained and her willingness to share and guide and continue to help with this project. As she retired on July 1st, but I don't think there's hardly been a week gone by that we haven't pestered her about something. So thank you very much. With that, I want to turn things over to Neil Doty with Crossroads Community Advisors. He's going to share with you some of the findings from some of the survey work that we did with various facets of the food supply chain, and his ideas and recommendations going forward. And then after that, we'll have some comments and reflections and Q&A time. So I'll turn the floor